If you didn't click off in the first 2 seconds, then well done. This video might just save you over $200,000. What's going on, guys? My name's David Tomich. I'm a registered architect here in Western Australia, and this is an urgent warning for anybody purchasing land or property on realestate.com.au. Firstly, the website is phenomenal and the resources it provides are excellent, but it does limit it ever so slightly. You're relying on the information provided by the agents to make sure you're completely informed. And I can guarantee you, not every single listing provides you with the truth. So let's get the largest cost saving out of the way. Is your property in a bushfire zone? If it isn't, well, you're lucky. But if it is, you could be spending an extra $200,000 plus just to make sure that new home complies to the current standards. So how do you find out? Well, if they aren't already providing you with this information in the description of the listing, there are a number of ways you can quickly find out. The easiest one is free. You can jump onto the DFS website, I'll leave a link down below, and search your property address. If it falls into the pink cloud, then it is in a bushfire zone and you're gonna have to get a bushfire assessment done. Any property in a bushfire zone immediately will cost you a couple $1,000s more just to make sure it complies. However, if it falls in a flame zone, which is basically in the middle of the forest, it could cost you up to $277,000 more than you originally anticipated. Another way to find out is by conditioning a bushfire attack level assessment prior to the purchase of the property. Yes, you can go out, you can condition the sale of it, but you can request that a bushfire assessor come out, perform an initial analysis of that site, and make sure it isn't in one of those higher end flame zones. Now, don't be fearful about bushfire zones because they are more common than you think. As long as it's BAL 29 or below, you're more than likely going to be able to achieve whatever you had in your mind. However, if it's BAL 40 or BAL FZ, you may need a professional opinion before you purchase this property. Moving on to the Goldilocks theory. Potentially your house could be too hot or too cold for the simple fact that it's facing the wrong way. Easiest way you can determine if a block is going to be suitable for a solar passive design, or just generally speaking a good architectural practices design, is in the southern hemisphere at least, that the longest side of your property faces north. Now it could be ajar a little bit, it could be northeast, it could be northwest. Either way, it should be facing predominantly north in the overall grand scheme of things. If it's facing south and all of your views are south, well then you're going to either have to overcompensate with heating and cooling, which is going to increase the cost of your ownership across this lifetime, or you're going to have to decrease the glazing, which may not be exactly what you're looking for because you might be looking at the beautiful ocean. We've all heard of the saying, love thy neighbor. But when it comes to buying property on realestate.com.au, generally speaking, they will tell you what your property is and what that property is owned. They don't care about your neighbors and they're not worried about them. So if you're not paying attention and if you're not researching your neighbors, you could be left with a skyscraper next to you in a number of years. So for instance, we've had projects where our clients have gone ahead and purchased an R40 project, which is a pretty typical zoning in Western Australia. This R40 zoning generally allows them to do about a 2 or 3 story development depending on the size of the site and how it actually contours and moves. What they don't normally pay attention to is what the neighbor is zoned. Sometimes, especially in the CBD, it could be your direct neighbor or it could be your neighbor 2 or 3 doors down that is allowed to build R100. So again, just talking in general terms, they could be allowed to build 6 stories next to you, completely overshadowing your project and ruining the quality of your life. Now, is this legal? Absolutely. They're allowed to build this on their property and they are allowed to comply with planning regulations. So you need to be cautious when buying a property that the neighbors are also zoned the exact same thing as you, so that you're not going to be overpowered and overshadowed in the future. Typically, zonings are available years and years and years in advance, so it doesn't sneak up on you, and if you haven't done your research, you might just devalue your property and lose money. If you're in a leafy green neighborhood, you probably love those leafy green trees, but you're not paying attention to them when you're buying a property. You're going, this is a beautiful street, it is covered in trees, it is exactly what the neighborhood needs. But what you need to be paying attention to is the exact location of that verge tree on your particular verge. Because let's say you have a small, narrow lot, maybe it's only about 10 meters wide. You might have 1, 2, or even 3 verge trees that you may or may not be allowed to remove or relocate. So now all of a sudden your grand plans are building this beautiful home with a driveway on this particular side and all of the northern light coming into your living rooms has been completely gutted because the council may not allow you to relocate this tree, and you have to meander in between some very old, beautiful trees just to get to your house. No, this isn't going to cost you any more to build on, but it will be something that you're not paying attention to, and it isn't highlighted on realestate.com.au. So jump on Google Maps, open up Street View, make sure you understand if there is verge trees and where the verge trees are on your property. And if it's outdated data, go for a drive. The time and money spent going to this property, inspecting it, looking at it to make sure it isn't the wrong project for you, could save you a hell of a lot of headaches. My last suggestion for you to be mindful of when shopping on realestate.com.au is water. Now, you may be thinking, what the hell? But water is your worst nightmare during construction. First of all, you don't want to be starting a project in the winter season. It makes it a lot more challenging. But more importantly, you don't want to be digging and de-watering a project. This could make or break the entire project and send you completely broke. So if you're looking at a property or realestate.com.au that is very close to water, a water body, be it a river, the ocean, or anything in between, make sure you understand where the water table below that site lies. Because, for instance, if you're looking to build a basement, an underground garage, or anything that requires digging out the land, throwing out that soil, and then building, it may or may not be the end of your project. When you're close to a body of water, the natural water table rises and falls for the seasons, and sometimes at its worst case, it could only be a couple meters below the surface level. So if you're going to dig out 3 to 5 meters of that site, you're going to be trying to pump out thousands and thousands and thousands of liters of water that has to be stored somewhere, that has to be discharged properly, and it isn't often that simple to get rid of. Anyway, that's all for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you require the assistance of an architect to help you throughout this process, simply jump on the website down below in the description, send me an email, and I'll be happy to help. But like I said, that is all from me, so I'll see you next Monday.